We know oftentimes we sometimes work in silos, and we are obviously so focused and doing our own thing. So it's really exciting to have so many other folks here with us. So if our presenters just, thank you, everyone's starting to unmute themselves. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. This is so exciting. Thank you. So I know we have quite a bit to cover right now, so I'd like to just get straight into it right away. Hi, everyone. And it's really neat because I know we see a lot of folks in passing through other conversations that we get to have, and working with each other doing the same work. We definitely cross paths, so it's really exciting to have everyone here with us. So I'll just get started right away by introducing our speakers. Hello, everyone. So I was waiting for the last one. So we have here with us, we have Morelia Rodriguez here from WTLC. We have Marissa Charlotte Presley from Human Options. We have Carielle Escalante here from Rainbow Services. We have so many folks. Let's see. Are we missing any others? Okay, great. We have Annette Oltmans, and then this is from Men Project. So this is really exciting. And we also have Jani Sepanik, sorry about that, from the Domestic Violence Education Prevention, Domestic Violence Prevention Education Manager from Community Resource Centers. We have so many folks here with us. Thank you. Now we are going to do kind of just a brief of who we are, and I'll again introduce everyone here with us, and then we'll get into just starting a few conversations. But at the end, we are taking a Q&A. So we are ready for questions as well as we see those come in. So here we have Morelia. We have a community advocate from WTLC. She holds a bachelor's from UC Irvine on a BA for a degree in public health policy. And she has worked in the domestic violence field and survivor advocacy role for 3 years now, and is really passionate about advocating for marginalized communities, and in her current position supports the organization by connecting victims and survivors to various resources as part of the community outreach and education department. She collaborates with other departments and agencies and implement appropriate trauma-informed service plans for survivors based on assessments of needs and safety. So we're really excited to have Morelia here with us. We have Marissa Charlotte Presley, prevention educator from Human Options, with 14 years of experience as a domestic violence advocate and doing relationship violence and child abuse prevention education work at numerous middle schools and high schools. And she's definitely a regular guest lecturer at different colleges and universities and at congregations of diverse faiths. So she trains and responds and trains first responders, police, sheriffs, ER personnel, UCI medical students, and also abroad with the U.S. Embassy in Mexico, and has been in numerous media outlets. So we're really excited to have Marissa here with us too. Carielle, representing Los Angeles County, is a DV regional coordinator with Rainbow Services. Has worked in the domestic violence field for 5 years and currently works as the DV regional coordinator at Rainbow Services. And this agency provides shelter services for individuals experiencing domestic violence. And we'll get down to, everything that these agencies offer as well. And in her current role, works towards building and strengthening relationships between victim services providers and homeless service providers. A large focus of her work also includes advocating for policies that offer protections to survivors within city, county, state agencies, all with the goal of improving the system and declining the staggering numbers of survivors experiencing homelessness. So we have Annette Oltmans here from the Men Project, as the founder of the Men Project, and is a philanthropist and passionate human rights activist. She is a survivor, and Annette's personal experiences of recovery and extensive field research into the topics of original and double abuse ignited Annette's passion to founding the Men Project in 2016. And I really appreciate that work too, because double abuse is definitely something that we don't commonly talk about or hear about. So I'm really excited to hear all about that as well. Her discoveries and writings provide an array of instruction and knowledge to individuals, religious and institutional and support communities regarding the correlation between unconscious and conscious abusive behaviors, the trauma they foster, and the generational liability they create. We also have Jani Sepanik from the Community Resource Center here with us. Jani has served as the CRC's Domestic Violence Education and Prevention Manager since 2016 after volunteering for CRC's for 10 years. So she comes with many years of experiencing training, education, public speaking, policy advocacy, and budgeting of the nonprofit, private, and government sectors. She is active in the movement to end domestic violence through the San Diego Domestic Violence Council and the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. She holds a bachelor's in political science and a master of public administration. So again, we have so many amazing folks with us. I am so excited to just get into this, and there's so much knowledge here. So we'll get into this. Let's begin by just introducing your agency. So we have a few different things. So can you give us an overview of your agency? What are your available programs and services? And are there any limitations to these programs and services? Any fees that our community members should be aware of? Let's begin with Morelia. Morelia, could you share with us a little bit more about WTLC?
Hi, Yanira. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, just an overview of WTLC. We are a nonprofit. We serve victims and survivors of human trafficking, as well as domestic violence or intimate partner violence. We have a variety of supportive services offered at WTLC. They're all free for survivors and victims of human trafficking and domestic violence. So just to kind of cover those services, we have legal advocacy. So if anyone is ever looking for a restraining order, child custody, immigration, we can help out, file the paperwork for that. We do court companionment as well. Other services include clinical advocacy. So if they're looking for individual or group therapy, child therapy, support groups, we offer that. And we also have non-traditional therapy for those that might be experiencing trauma that isn't really compatible through traditional talk therapy. So we offer like EMDR, art therapy, sensory therapy. As far as housing and shelter, we do have emergency shelter and transitional housing program. So we take in survivors, their children. We also take in pets. So we are the only shelter in Orange County that takes in survivors' pets. We did see that that was a barrier. So we're really happy that we're able to provide that option for survivors. And then we have a 24-hour helpline. So if a victim or survivor ever needs to get connected to these services, or even just needs someone to talk about their situation with, they can call our helpline. And then lastly, we do have a community outreach program. So that can be services like parenting classes, PEP, presentations, resources fairs, things like that. And since COVID started, we have been offering presentations through live streams on our Facebook page. So we have that information on our Facebook. And then just to kind of close it off, we are also trying to expand our services to work with people who cause harm. So as of right now, we are offering therapeutic services, and hopefully we can expand further.
Awesome, that's so exciting. Thank you for sharing that news too. Carielle, would you like to go next?
Yeah, very similar actually to, well, the organization. Rainbow is located in the South Bay area of LA County. And so we offer services for survivors of domestic violence. We have emergency shelter, transitional shelter. We offer individual counseling for survivors and their children. That was something that we saw the need for back, and we realized that we don't give children as much attention as we should be doing. We focus so much on survivors. We offer legal services as well, family and immigration. And lately we've been expanding into more housing advocacy, housing legal advocacy in that sense, only because we, well, I believe it's the result that the fact that we got a community housing or Housing First funding. So we're recipient in 2016. We received money for that. So so we're dealing with a lot more housing issues with our participants, with landlords, and trying to advocate with them. And our legal team has been amazing at supporting with that. We offer as well. I know Rainbow is really involved in like the policy aspect of it. Our director is incredible, Elizabeth Eastland. So she's a champion in our community as far as advocating for any policy changes within different systems. And housing is one of our something that we've been working towards to align our DV agencies with our homeless agencies to try to access more specific, try to facilitate access. So that's something that we've been working on a lot lately, and we have a part of the DV regional model, and I'll get more into it later, but it's about kind of aligning those systems and making sure that we can, one, provide access, but two, also make sure that those services that are being provided within the homeless system are more, well, are safe to access.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we'll definitely get a little bit more into that too. So I like that you gave us an intro. Marissa, would you like to go next?
Yes, hi. It's so good to see you guys. I'm really excited and very happy and honored to be here. I do want to take a second to just honor the land that we all stand in today, and for all of the people in the fires. Oh my goodness, it's so scary. I also want to wish all of you guys peace, love, and harmony. And to the panelists, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm on the same panel with you guys. I already know of the work of your hands, Morelia. I did not know of you guys, but I did my research, and oh my God, just to be on the same panel with you guys. Thank you so much. It is DVAM, so how exciting it is that all of the work of our hands, we get to like culminate it into this month and then continue to do work. So pretty much what Morelia talked about, Carielle talked about, that's what we do at Human Options with the 24-hour crisis hotline, the legal advocacy, the counseling, therapy, talk, art, play therapy. We also do have something that we are the only ones in Orange County to do this. We have Safe Options for Seniors program. So, you know, when an elderly is being abused, and it is not always in intimate relationships, it could be a grandchild that's abusing. So we do have that program. We also have an advocate who does ride-alongs and actually goes to the site of the 911 calls when the crime has occurred through the Santa Ana Police Department. So we're really proud about that. I wish we accepted pets. That would be like so amazing. I probably would like switch my position and like go directly to work with the pets. That would be amazing. So another thing that we do is that I actually run a 10-week program called Ambassadors, where we train youth to become the active leaders, the ones that are going to be helping their other youth friends to detect dating abuse, relationship violence, and what to do about it. So I'm excited. Thank you guys for hosting this.
Thank you so much for joining us. Annette, would you like to share with us a bit more about the Men Project? Ooh, I think you're muted. Give me 1 second, Annette. I think you're muted. Let's see. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Second. All right. What I was basically saying is thank you for the opportunity to answer this question and to describe what we do, because it's a little bit unique compared to the other panelists. At the Men Project, our mission is to educate, equip, and restore all those impacted by abuse. So it could be responders, victims, those who cause harm. And we achieve this by teaching on emotional abuse and trauma, including post-traumatic stress disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And we train frontline individuals who interface with victims, usually the frontline individuals who are interfacing with them at the first point of disclosure. So it's not a traditional first responder. It's usually, well, I'll get into that, that we provide in-person and virtual training programs for these individuals, organizations, survivors, and for those who cause harm. We host an educational website, which you can find at themendproject.com. It contains many tools and resources to help individuals and organizations better understand and respond to psychological abuse. Most specifically, we focus on covert emotional abuse that causes victims to remain in abusive relationships because of their confusion. We have free downloadable PDFs on our site, including a comprehensive list of covert behaviors and definitions to provide clarity to all involved before it escalates to physical violence, and which also, the clarity also diminishes the effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. In our in-person and virtual trainings, it does include a fee. However, we also provide scholarships and we raise funds to support those in need. Our primary goal is to ensure that all are trained and that the landscape of how we respond to abuse shifts. So over the past 3 years, we've trained a wide range of nonprofits, many therapists, churches of different faiths, and many, many survivors, as well as those who cause harm. The key thing that distinguishes us, I think, from other domestic violence agencies is that the MEND Project is dedicated to training those frontline individuals and organizations that victims turn to first. At this point, the victim may not be aware that they're within an abusive relationship, so they aren't accessing the help they could receive from DV agencies. Instead, they first reach out to people or organizations that they deem trustworthy to share their relationship problems. Therapists, family and friends, faith-based leaders and mentors. And unfortunately, due to the lack of understanding and the lack of proper training about emotional abuse and how best to respond to a victim's disclosure, it's at this point that a victim often experiences a secondary layer of harm, which we call double abuse. Double abuse occurs when these first responders minimize, sometimes they ignore their plight. They may interrogate them, with numerous pointed questions. They may criticize them, give them bad advice, incorrect instructions. They may even give them ultimatums. If it's in a church setting, they may say, well, you need to do this, or we can't do that. And it may be completely incorrect. Or they just disbelieve them. They disbelieve the survivor and effectively silence them and push them into further oppression. What we have found, and particularly by interviewing hundreds of victims, is that double abuse causes hopelessness and despair, significantly exacerbating their PTSD symptoms into complex PTSD, a much more difficult form of trauma to heal. And far too often, this causes them to remain in the abusive environment, doubting and blaming themselves without even understanding that they are dealing with intimate partner violence. Our tools and training bring clarity to victims and responders with an emphasis on preventing double abuse. We seek to help those responders understand the significant power that they hold to either help victims in their greatest time of need or risk re-traumatizing them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Jani, would you like to tell us a little bit more about Community Resource Center in San Diego? Could you share with us about your agency?
Yes, happy to. Thank you so much again for inviting us and bringing all of these people together. I've already learned a lot in just a few minutes about what's happening with my neighbors up north, just north of San Diego, right? We are a human services agency in North County, San Diego, in the coastal area. And in addition to our domestic violence program, we provide other human services to the general community. So in specific, we do a lot of work with housing and homelessness prevention. We have career planning and counseling. We do financial and budgeting kinds of education for folks. We help connect people to food and nutrition resources and things that are more general in nature, help folks with tax preparation and some of the more traditional human services work, also connecting people to other resources and benefits that they may be entitled to. And in our domestic violence program, we provide some of the same standard kinds of services that are intervention services. And we work in collaboration in San Diego County with 6 other agencies. 5 of us are out in the general public covering different areas of the county, but we do collaborate for placement, especially for shelter and transitional housing, sometimes also for counseling placements. And then we work with Camp Pendleton, which is the Marine base that is just north of San Diego. They have their own domestic violence program right on site, and also sexual assault response called the Family Advocacy Program. So we work with the advocates there who do very similar work, except focused on base. And then we work with the Strong-Hearted Native Women's Coalition that works throughout the tribal areas that are primarily in the eastern part of San Diego County. So again, they focus there, but also we're able to share resources, make referrals back and forth, as appropriate. So we're continuing to strengthen those collaborative arrangements too. We have just recently developed a site in which all advocates can see where housing availability is, especially for emergency and transitional, and not have to send people on a mission to make lots of different phone calls, contacting with lots of different agencies, but to have that collected in one place. And we have pretty much all the agencies involved in that work are signed on to this agreement to maintain this with current and accurate information for people. So we're pretty excited about having that. And while we don't have our own ability to take pets into our program, which we would love to do, we have some really serious space constraints, but we do work with the local humane society that is dedicated to serving people who've been affected by violence and being able to take their pets in for them and foster them out in a private home while the person is seeking services in a shelter situation. And when they get back into a place where they can have their pets safely, then their pets can go back to them. So we're happy to have that service, but that is still not the same as being able to have your pet with you, which is, we know it's a barrier, as you said, and it's such a wonderful thing that you're able to do that. I'm excited to hear about that. And that pretty much wraps up what we do on the intervention side. And on the prevention side, we work primarily with youth through our schools. We work with 5 huge school districts. It's about 50,000 high school students in the North County area. We work with the San Diego County Office of Education and the San Diego Domestic Violence Council, which is our umbrella collaborative group with a lot of different prevention educators to, especially now, to collaborate and offer through online virtual platforms information that can be shared countywide with students. Otherwise, our preferred method is small group work, and often, when possible, to identify groups of students who are available and interested in really much more in-depth training that they can then remain on their campus or in their communities as peer advocates and be able to, and we support them and advise them as they request, but have that knowledge that they can keep with them and share with their peers in either their school setting or whatever other group they might be associated with. And then we have been working with the curriculum from a call to men and specifically reaching out to groups of boys. And that has been an effort that we have been able to focus on, that we were just, I should say, just starting to focus on when everybody's life changed in March, and the ability for schools to accommodate what we were proposing has changed as well. But we've stayed in touch with our school contacts, and we are hopeful that what we're looking at is more of a delay rather than a cancellation of being able to engage with these groups and, you know, really be able to get at some of the issues that we don't always get at when we have less time with students. So that's what we're up to in San Diego County.
Thank you so much. I think it's really neat, really, again, to have representatives from different counties here too. As I mentioned, you know, we only know how Orange County is doing, but we always want to check in with each other. How is everyone, our neighboring counties doing? So we'll continue on that. You had mentioned, you know, the fact that we are in a pandemic, and how is that looking for our communities right now? So how has COVID had an impact in the county that your agency is in? What impact has it had on your community and those experiencing intimate partner violence? So how is that? How is it looking for you all? I know we had an idea of what that looked like in the beginning, right, in March, and how we were pivoting, trying to alter our services and programs, but how do we continue to see domestic violence in our communities right now? We'll just circle around again. So Aurelio, what are your thoughts on this and how we see it in Orange County?
Yeah, well, with the shelter at home order being placed on Orange County, we definitely saw an increase in callers to our 24-hour helpline. Many victims don't have a safe place to shelter at home, so we saw that the community was getting more impacted with domestic violence in that area. A lot of businesses closed down, events were canceled, schools closed. So this meant that a lot of the survivors, families, a lot of the community were spending more time at home and less time outside of the home. So that translates to more opportunities for people who cause harm to abuse victims. And there's that added barrier for victims that they're not able to find safe spaces outside of the home since everything is closed. We also did see a slowdown with legal cases related to the court. So anyone that was looking to file a restraining order or they had an ongoing court case, we did find that there was a delay to moving their case forward. Obviously, there was the exception with time-sensitive matters, and they were still having court, but it was just virtual. But again, it was very slow. There is a faster progression now that they've opened up the courts, but it's still slow because they're only letting in, certain people into the room. They have to disinfect afterwards. So it's a much slower process, I would say.
Great, thank you so much. And I appreciate you even mentioning the courts, right? Because our court systems can vary as well. Thank you. Carielle?
Yeah, we actually, in LA County, we saw decrease in our hotline calls, initially at least. And I think I heard that in other regions, but I think that was just attributed to the fact that people were stuck at home with their significant others. So they didn't have the ability to get out and make that call, right? But that lasted a very short amount of time because right away we saw the phone calls skyrocket, and I attribute that to our city officials really stepping up and kind of highlighting and putting our DV agencies on many platforms and whatnot. And also what we noticed was like a standstill at our emergency shelters because it was so tough to get them into transitional shelters or to move on. Or any shared type of housing, right? So what happened was that we were very fortunate that in LA City, our city stepped up really quickly, and that they came out with a program specifically, a hotel program specifically for DV survivors. It's called Project Safe Haven. And so Rainbow was able to participate in that program. A lot of I mean, definitely it was an adjustment, and and for everyone, because we had to kind of move very rapidly on this program and how it was going to be set up. But it was definitely needed, and we saw how right away, like we started off with a smaller number of hotel rooms that were going to be available, and then the city continued to increase that, and they continued to increase that because originally that was supposed to end in August, and now we have funding until December. So um so yes, and what additional impacts that we saw are just more technical, but I feel like the more technical are also like the most impactful, that we're gonna see the long-term effects. So for children, right, just even like getting that Wi-Fi, not just for children, for people who are working through virtual means now, right, who are residents in emergency shelters, trying to make sure that they have access to that, so they continue to have economic security. For adults and then for children, they continue to have that development, right? We saw adjustments having to be done around our shelters, around what requests we needed to make to these Project Safe Haven programs. We also saw um, we saw it's one of the things that I noticed, the impact. It was specifically, I mean, survivors come in every gender, but we do know, we saw that disproportionate kind of how women were affected so disproportionately, trying to accommodate, like not being able to accommodate childcare, right? So childcare was something that was really needed, and having to do that while working and whatnot. And depending on who makes the bigger income in the household, that may take precedence and whatnot. So there was some notice to that. I want to look more into that, but yeah, so that's what we saw here in LA County and how it impacted.
Thank you so much. And I also agree, it's kind of, everything's moving too. There are a lot of moving parts to it as well. And we kind of just have to continue adjusting to it. Thank you. Marissa, what do you have any additions to kind of what we see in Orange County?
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I think I can just echo Morelia and Carielle, especially on the legal part. Our CEO, Maricela Rios Faust, actually wrote an article for the Orange County Register, specifically talking about the legal aspect and how it is not safe to be at home or to even stay at home for a lot of our families, right? Because some of the options that families used to have in the past, those options are not available anymore. For example, it's harder to report. And that's why probably Carielle was mentioning the fact that their hotline on calls did go down, because it is harder to report those times when the victim survivor is calling. They're calling when they're alone. And we're actually encouraging them to call when they're alone, because we're going to put their life in danger if we're chatting with them while the person who's harming them is in the same home. The escape plan is not, they're not going to be able to practice the escape plan, right? And if you are working with an advocate to do a safety plan so that you can break up safely and not end up like a statistic, because a lot of us, on this panel, we already know the statistics. The FBI, this is not even an opinion, this is the FBI, within the first 72 hours after a victim survivor breaks up, leaves, walks out the door, the chances of her being killed is a 75% chance. And if there's access to firearms, that chance just went up to 500%. So it's very difficult for these families to plan the escape and to teach the children how and when to dial 911. So a lot of options are not there anymore, right? We're very lucky in Orange County. I believe that we might be one of the only counties, ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, but Orange County has, because we saw limited access to the courts when this happened, we actually in Orange County, the system provides an online portal so that you can do an application for a restraining order, and a judge will review that application. So we are really lucky in Orange County, right? That if you're a resident here, you can do that. But then again, with that, there's the language barrier, because it's not in every language. So you have that other aspect to look into, right? One awesome thing about Human Options is that all of our legal advocates, every single one of them, they're all bilingual. So we can still work with anyone right now, right? I think another thing I'd like to really mention, maybe 2 more points if I may, is that when this happened, all of us, rushed over to get disinfectants and wipes and make sure that our home is safe. But now we're talking about a home with multiple families of multiple cultures and multiple beliefs and multiple ways of raising children and living together. And now we're communal living in a shelter. So I give props to every single individual that works in a shelter setting, because I know how stressful it was for my family. And another thing I want to mention is that my program for youth, ambassador program that I run, it was difficult to do a virtual cohort because they don't know me. They can't see me. But it actually turned out to be really amazing, you guys, because in the past cohorts, I would only host from the same high school. So they kind of were from the same program, yet they all knew each other. But now I was able to host from all over, even outside of Orange County. So that's kind of like the positive of that. So yeah, I think also, Carielle, you mentioned childcare. I think that has come up for a lot of our clients as well. So thank you for this platform, guys.
Thank you so much. Annette, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Briefly, the primary issue for us has been that victims are in close proximity with their abusers, and it's preventing them from reaching out to the first responders that we've trained, who they feel safe to do so, and because they don't have a confidential space to do that. But what we've seen is a significant increase in traffic on our website and through our emails. And so we've been helping them that way, but they've had to be very clever to be able to communicate in a way that they won't be discovered. Another problem we face is that many of the organizations that we were scheduled to train once COVID hit, they became overtaxed and fatigued because of the extra effort and time it's taking them to provide new services like childcare services that they hadn't provided before, or various new services, food bank services, and so forth. So it's not canceled. These are not canceled, but they are delayed at a time when it's so critical that they be trained. And then another issue that we're seeing is that there's just increased levels of exhaustion and emotional strain because of these added services that they're providing. And so while they may be sensitive to the increase in numbers that we're seeing in domestic violence, they're not in the best mindset to respond, especially if they're untrained in a compassionate way. That's basically what we're seeing here at the MEN Project.
Thank you so much. Jani, would you like to share?
Yes, I would say that we've experienced very similar things to what everybody has already mentioned. Initially, it was very quiet and everybody got really nervous about, oh my gosh, what is going to happen next? How is this going to be? And of course, our instinct is we know that because it's quiet doesn't mean that the violence has ended, and how do we do our thing. So at first it was very strange and a little bit all over the board with the people who did then eventually call us, and the way that we were able to get out our message too. We tried all of the different communications venues that we typically use. And what we found is that our social media responses have gotten significantly higher since the stay-at-home orders. And then right after the first couple of weeks of quiet, once people figured out, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I guess I'm going to have to do it on the way to the grocery store, or while I'm saying I'm at the grocery store, those limited places that people could go where they typically, that wouldn't have been where they would have placed a sensitive call or whatever. So we started to see that. And then since that time, from April through September, our hotline calls have increased 53% over last year, which was last year, 2019 was a fairly typical year for the last 10 years. So this was just a huge a huge increase. And we also had to very quickly solve some issues that we had in our communal residential living, and how to make that safe and healthy for the people coming in, both the people who were at the program when it happened, people coming into the program, our own staff members, and lots of inquiries, right, from our donors, from other funders, from the state of California. So it was hectic at first, and as much as you tried to focus on the self-care for the people in the program as well as the staff, that was really challenging. And I think what everybody noticed then, but then really in hindsight can look back at is how hard that was to manage with that massively changing environment and a lot of unknowns for the staff, for the people who we were serving. Is this going to be short term? Is it going to be a couple of weeks? Is it going to, is each week, is there going to be more that we have to do, more to implement? Are we going to need more in different supplies and equipment, technology? That for sure the issues with working, we have a lot of essential workers who are in our programs, both our domestic violence program, but also in our general programs, and their issues with childcare when the schools just, closed. And a lot of people whose caregivers were also members of the family, but not living in the same household and maybe with other health issues. And right, it was just a lot to try to adjust to. I think that we have made those adjustments for the most part now. And but what has continued is the higher levels of stress that we're seeing in the people who we serve. Right? Not only are they coming to us because of how they've been affected by violence in their lives, but they're also carrying the same load that we're all carrying, and then trying to manage it in ways that are just not very stable or natural at all, and adding those unknowns of where you're going to live and for how long and what's that going to be like. And yeah, it's been super challenging. Our request for services in our counseling department has skyrocketed, and we've had great response on the positive side. We've had really great response from some of our funders who've been able to support us additionally in ways that they were not anticipating, right? And our community has responded. So our donor base has really assisted us in a lot of amazing ways as well. And that has allowed us to really up our response and be there for our clients in the best way that we can right now. So that's where we are.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to ask one more question before we move on to the Q&A. But we've talked about COVID and the pandemic. Are there any additional obstacles that you're seeing right now that our clients are facing? Are you noticing any intersecting issues such as substance abuse, mental health, or other forms of oppressive control? What I mean?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You want me to? We've just noticed that, as was just mentioned, that they are experiencing higher levels of stress, which is manifesting into higher degrees of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, physical illnesses. They're getting very physically ill because of the prolonged states of stress, and just a general sense of hopelessness and despair, which, exacerbates their trauma into complex PTSD. So we're also seeing increase in substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and just overall compromised mental health.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Annette was saying. We're definitely seeing an overlap with struggling with mental health. And that's just because so many areas of their life are being impacted. They're struggling with loss of all kinds, loss of a job, loss of housing, secure housing, loss of friends, family members who've been affected by COVID. So they're just being impacted in a lot of different ways. And that's, definitely a huge burden to bear. And that can lead into other issues, maybe struggling with substance misuse, again, housing or finding job, childcare, trying to juggle all of these things at once can be very overwhelming for them. So, because of those sorts of struggles that they're facing all at once, we are trying to provide more supportive services, so support groups, and making those available online and accessible. We've had participants who were helping find housing and they're still struggling, and they want to join our support group, so we give them the option, like, if you really want to join this, we can bring you into our center, book a room for you, give you a laptop so you can join. You don't have to worry about finding, a charger to keep your phone on during the class. You don't have to worry about finding a safe space, because they can do it there, at least for those 2 hours, to get that support that they need.
Yeah, and kind of to add on to what both Morelia and Annette said, and I know you asked specifically about survivors, but I think it's talking about the staff that is working with them is so important, because we're seeing this not just with survivors, we're seeing them also with staff. And so, as Annette mentioned earlier, staff is working with them and they're overwhelmed, they are stressed or burned out. And so what we see is, well, I'll speak about survivors first, right? When we talk about survivors and what they're experiencing mental health or stress, being overwhelmed, but we're also seeing that is making it harder for them to maintain any type of stable work. And so when we do that, we take away the security of, like, if they are already in housing, in a stable housing, and that puts that in danger. So so it's not, many times when survivors come to us, they may have 1 or 2 issues, and now they're coming with twice the amount of issues. So it also puts an additional burden on our staff. And already staff has been amazing. I mean, in every sense of the word, I feel like we are all probably very fortunate to have the amazing staff that we have that has just kind of jumped in. But nevertheless, like, it's just, I see the caseloads, and not only are they higher, but the issues with each survivor is also higher. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that with survivors and staff.
Thank you so much for acknowledging that too. That's definitely having an impact on our staff as well. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Marissa?
Yes, thank you guys. I echo all of you. Annette, with when you were talking about stress, yes, absolutely. We're seeing that not only with the victim survivor, but with the person who harms, who actually reaches out and says, I need help. I get a lot of people who disclose to me after my presentations, and it's a lot of them are the person who is harming, whether, their whatever gender identity, even if they fall outside of the binary, they disclosed to me. And one of the things that they're saying is that I feel like the stress level that I'm under is causing me or making me be more aggressive, which we all know that the pandemic is not creating aggressors. It's not creating abusers. It's not creating perpetrators. If you're already angry, you already got violence, and you already aggressive, the pandemic is going to help bring it out, but it's not the root cause of it, because it's about power and control. But I'm also like, I'm so thankful that WTLC, that you guys are doing, you're basically eliminating barriers for those who cannot join these groups. And you're basically saying, let's figure out how we can make that happen. So I applaud you guys for that. And thank you, Carielle. You were talking about not only providers, but you guys. I'm seeing individuals that are pretty zen, they do what they can to hold it together and to just move on with life and be here now. And, they have a lot of tools, a lot of resources. I'm seeing those individuals stressed out. I am stressed out, and I have a lot of tools. So I think that one of the things that we are seeing is that we are teaching victim survivors, what does self-care mean? And it doesn't mean go on a vacation, go on a, spa day. What really is self-care and what does it mean for you? So I think we could focus on that, not only for victim survivors, persons, individuals who harm, but also for us, just as, participants of webinars or on our daily life. What is self-care really? What does it mean? We actually did, for our DVAM 2020 campaign, a calendar of 31 days of action. And we just decided every Sunday, we're going to do a self-care, because for over 25 years, guys, I've been practicing my Super Soul Sacred Silent Sunday. Like, I made that up because Oprah used to have like Super Soul Sunday or something. So I'm like, well, we got to add some sacredness and some silence to this. Okay. It really is just disconnecting. And, sometimes it's beating your African drum, playing your ukulele, watching whatever you want on TV, and ignoring the whole planet and the whole world. So I think self-care is something we really must focus on right now. Thank you, guys. Thank all of you.
Thank you. Jani, would you like to talk to us about some additional obstacles that maybe we're seeing in this? Oh, I think you're muted.
I will leave it at what I shared earlier, and we can go right into the question and answer period.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Janina, I just wanted to mention, because Marissa mentioned something about self-care and really teaching service providers. But you want to know, an observation that I had is just prioritizing that. It's so hard right now because we are so overwhelmed with all the additional work that we are encountering, right? So even though agencies like Rainbow are really trying to instill that, making wellness hours and whatnot, it is hard because I look at that invitation and I'm just like, I have so much to do. And so being, like Marissa mentioned, having all the tools and knowing better, I'm still making that choice. And it's like, I don't need that self-care right now. I need to focus on this. Just want to throw that out there.
No, that's very true. I mean, that's very real. I think we all share the same spaces that's what staff across the board are feeling for sure in every agency. And yeah, prioritizing that is kind of taking, putting it on the back burner for now. But so thank you. I appreciate you all for being very real and vulnerable with that. As people, if you all have any questions, feel free to chat it up, to write it in the chat. But right now we also have, I want to make sure that people know, how we can access your services and programs. So if you'd like to share that right now too, that'd be really important. Whatever, would you like to start?
Sure. So let's see, Yanira did send my email in the chat. So if you're interested in services, you can reach out to me personally. If you feel more comfortable, you can call our helpline. The number should be up here right above my hand. And we also have an email that you can reach out to us as well. You can email or text. It's love@wtlc.org. And then our helpline number is 1-877-531-5522.
Thank you. Carielle, would you like to let us know about Rainbow?
Yes. So if you're interested in service, the same thing, you can reach out to me and I can connect you to the appropriate person. Or also we can go ahead and I'll put in the hotline number, 24-hour hotline on the chat box. And normally we would be doing walk-ins, but at this point it's still not available. So yeah, the best way to access services with Rainbow would be through the hotline.
Perfect, thank you. And Marissa has put the Human Options hotline number on the chat and also the website too. Thank you, Marissa. Any other additions you'd like to?
Also, you guys shared my email, so please feel free to just connect with me. Maybe if you're working on a case, whether it's a personal family friend, colleague, classmate, or just one of your professional cases, I would be happy to bounce off anything that can help safety plan.
Thank you so much. Annette?
Yeah, I just encourage you to reach out to us. I included my information in the chat box. And actually, if you connect with our website or you reach out to me tomorrow night and the following night, we're conducting a low-cost online training. It's our introductory training to covert emotional abuse, double abuse. We call it the pillars of abuse, the mindset of those who cause harm, and our complete list of terms and definitions to describe covert emotionally abusive behaviors. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Janae, I see that you put the Community Resource Center number on there too.
Yeah, that's our hotline number for any domestic violence services. The intake is there, or to talk to an advocate. And then earlier when you put my email, I'm certainly open to that. And also our website is on there, and that does describe the other services that we offer too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I believe, Annette, I think there was a question real quick for the training. Who can we contact for that?
I put it in the chat box, info@themendproject.com. I see it scrolled up beyond the first page, but if you scroll down, you'll see info@themendproject.com, or you can reach out to me, Annette@themendproject.com, and I'll get back to you.
Perfect. Well, this hour flew by. I feel like we could stay here all day and still not even reach the tip of the iceberg. So thank you all so much. I know Domestic Violence Awareness Month is busy too, so appreciate your time and for all the work that you all do. I love being able to connect with other service providers and really talk about what we see in our communities, and especially since we're seeing a lot of the same things too. That we all do our own unique work. So I appreciate everything you all do, and thank you for joining us today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, year. So thank you so much.
Thank you for including us. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Peace, love, and harmony to everyone. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Same, Marissa. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you
Take care,
so
everyone.
much.
Take care.